Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avenger.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
Rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Do you want the truth? The kind they try to hide. It's not left versus right. It's a war for our minds. We built this land with sweat and grace, but they sold our birthright to a stranger's face. We just wanna work to live, to be free, to raise our kids and keep our dignity. But every law they write, every rule they spin, takes another inch from the people again. It's us versus them, the people versus control. The flag still stands for freedom, not for gold. They can try to divide, but they can't break the sun, 'cause this land belongs to everyone. And we'll stand as one. My friends on the other side, I feel your pain. You've been lied to too. It's the same old game. The system's broken, that much is true. But I don't hate you, brother, I stand with you. We've all been played by the hands of the few. They print our chains in red, white, and blue, but freedom ain't theirs. It's in our soul. It's the will of the people that makes us whole. It's us versus them, the strong versus the fake, the workers, the soldiers, the hearts that won't break. We'll stand by our faith, our flag, our gun, 'cause this land belongs to everyone. And we'll stand as one. Freedom's not a gift you're handed from a throne. It's the fire in your chest that says I stand alone. It's the farmer, the builder, the mother's cry. It's the spirit that refuses to die. They call it progress, we call it theft of the blood and sweat that our fathers left. But when the people rise, the lies are done, and we remember we're the one. It's us versus them, but love wins the fight. Truth is our weapon, and God is our light. They can chain the body, but they can't chain the sun, 'cause this land belongs to everyone. And we'll stand as one. So raise that flag, let the stars still wave, for the land of the free and the home of the brave. We'll bow to no tyrant, we'll kneel to no crown. This is our hope, we won't back down. It's us
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh, and welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose Live with you Monday through Friday. I hope everybody is doing well out there and had a fantastic weekend. And man, just rocking and rolling in this world with everything going on. Donald Trump had a banger of a 60 Minutes interview. For 79 years of age, I'll tell you one thing, that man is sharp and on the money. So it was a really good interview, way better than the last ones that he's done when he was being vehemently attacked. But listen, we're not going to talk about that too much tonight. A few different things about the schedule this week. Last night we had Q After Dark, great show. That was a midnight episode on Sunday nights. If you don't know about that, we do that on Badlands Media. And then with Badlands, we had the Great American Restoration Tour this week in Cocoa Beach, Florida. Now, if you're interested in attending that, badlandsmedia.tv/events. You go on over there. You can get your virtual tickets. You can get your in-person tickets. I will be there. I leave here Wednesday. I'll be there Thursday through Sunday. I'll be speaking on 3 different panels, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So hoping to see all of you guys there or on the virtual event. So that means that the Daily Dose won't be me hosting it. And I think we got something figured out. We got Jeff Wong, who's going to be hosting Conversations on the Fringe on Friday night. I believe George Lewis is going to be joining him. We'll have a time for you guys on that. So that's going to be a great conversation. And then the Daily Dose, we're going to try to get the show going Tuesday through Friday. And potentially you're going to have one of 2 different hosts that are going to come in, Tammy Cuthbert Garcia and then Jason Garcia. Hopefully we can get them in there to host that show. And so they'll be doing just kind of a daily news brief, and they'll talk a little bit about health and as well just giving you the daily news of what's going on in the world. Probably not from my perspective, but hey, that's okay. I'll see if I can join in with them this week for a special guest appearance if I don't have too much going on at the Great American Restoration Tour. Again, I leave Wednesday for that. But tomorrow night I do have a dinner down here in Minneapolis. So I will be either very late to a show, or there might not be a show tomorrow, or Tammy might host it. I don't know. I have to figure that out logistically after this show. What's going on there. But DEF CON 0 tomorrow night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be on that. So that show will be a go for tomorrow night. So just wanted to let you guys know the schedule for the week. This week, we got a bunch of different elections happening throughout the United States. Obviously, the big one, the mayoral election in New York City. Mamdani, Cuomo, and Slawi, and all these guys. Donald Trump coming out endorsing Cuomo. Kind of interesting. Never thought I'd see that before in my life, but you have to look at the alternatives here. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Now, let's get rocking and rolling. I got a guest backstage and we bring it up in a second, but I want to lay the precedent here, okay? So in that video, there's a picture of our national debt. Our national debt, I believe, is somewhere around 34 trillion right now. The Federal Reserve banking system is absolutely corrupt. It's a failure. It's on everybody knows the history of this. 1913 to 1933, you had the 20-year charter of the Federal Reserve banking system. And then we had the Great Depression that hit, and the U.S. went bankrupt in 1933. This brought about the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, Joint House Resolution 129, creating the Federal Reserve Note. They confiscated all the gold. The rest is history. 100-year charter of the Federal Reserve ends in 2033. Central banks around the world control, rule, and dominate the world through the fiat banking system. This is horrible, people. We need a new system. And what we've seen with the Trump administration, beautifully, is since January, they've been setting up the SEC and various other parts of our economy to begin transitioning to what I would call a new economic system, a new economic model. I just had this one up here. The Federal Reserve just pumped $29.4 billion in the U.S. banking system through overnight repos. This amount far surpasses even the peak of the dot-com bubble. And we're coming into another bubble already with artificial intelligence. So it's just an interesting time to be alive. But this is where you have to begin investing your money wisely. And you know that one thing that I've been talking about for, my goodness, since the inception of this show is cryptocurrency and primarily Bitcoin. So I'm going to bring on my guest, Dave Birnbaum. He's the VP of Product at Coinbits.app and the president of the Tennessee Bitcoin Alliance. He has works featured in the New York Times, USA Today, Fox Business Network, Wall Street Journal, on all things digital, and the Atlantic Podcast. So welcome, Dave, to the show. First time being on here. Dave, how we doing, man?
Hey, thank you, Josh. I'm so happy to be here. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. And, I'm pretty sure you heard me talking there about the Federal Reserve Bank.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you've been in the Bitcoin for a long time. Now, I'm curious, what got you into Bitcoin?
Oh, it's a good question. Well, my background is really in emerging technology. I was a technologist in Silicon Valley for many years, and I was investigating the application of new technologies to our business. And I wound up learning about cryptocurrency early on when Bitcoin was new, as sort of, it's just another new technology. What do we do with this? How do we use it? That's kind of how I discovered it. And at the time, Bitcoin was the behemoth, and it is still that. But there were only a few other cryptocurrencies at that time, and some of them were more focused on privacy. Others had other specialties. I was always interested in the privacy side of things because I think it's incredibly important. Your financial privacy, and I mean, it's actually, if you think about it, a little bit tragic that your right to transact freely without surveillance and without state coercion, didn't make it into the Constitution because, at that time, that wasn't a concern. It was, the idea that, you could have a third party involved. I could walk into your shop and I could offer to pay you a gold or a silver coin, and that there would be a third party that could actually monitor that and, skim some of it out of the transaction, or prevent me from doing it because they didn't like you, something like that. That was unheard of. They couldn't imagine it, right? So that went unsaid.
Yeah.
And so now we find ourselves in this situation where we have pervasive economic and financial surveillance in our society and in the world. And so cryptocurrency is interesting because in some sense, a lot of people are concerned about the privacy of cryptocurrency, right? And they would rather go back to, cash or a gold standard or silver standard. And we can get into the reasons why I think that Bitcoin is actually the best solution to all of that. It's in fact far superior to those, and actually will preserve liberty far into the future. But that's how I discovered it. And eventually it was actually, it was kind of on the side for me in the back of my mind. And it was really COVID, like so many other people, that drove home the importance of all of this. And I decided to make it the centerpiece of my work. And so I wound up, helping create Coinbits, which is a platform that helps people get into Bitcoin with a very kind of low commitment. You don't have to buy a lot of the time. We also tell you more about kind of your spending habits to try to get you to be more kind of responsible and sort of having long-term thinking and how you use money, so that you're not chasing short-term gratification all the time. So all those kinds of features are built in, but really the most important thing in my view is that anybody who is sort of has the inkling that, maybe Bitcoin is part of the solution to the situation that we are in with respect to the violation of natural rights. I would just say, whether it's with Coinbits or someone else, just take that first step, because the first step's the hardest. And I do believe it will pay off extremely well in the long term.
Well, let's talk about that part there. I mean, the intrusive nature of today's money. I mean, up until January 20th, 2025, here in the United States of America, there's big talk about CBDC, central bank digital currencies, programmable money. We know that this still exists on the private infrastructure. I mean, I think it was the Bank of International Settlements Unified Ledger Framework that came out a few years ago that was discussing private integration with CBDC networks, where JP Morgan can have the JPM coin, and they can program it any way they like, and they can, offer 2% interest rate mortgage if you do it all through the JPM coin, of which is going to give them a high level of control over you. Now, how is Bitcoin different from that aspect of maybe centralization versus decentralization?
Yeah, well, you could think of Bitcoin as maybe a discovery, maybe an invention. It was something that that people had been trying to invent actually for decades. It's like, oh, Bitcoin is this new thing. It was invented in 2009. Actually, computer scientists had been trying to create what's called digital scarcity for decades. There was this idea, you and I are used to the idea of digital abundance. We can take, that's what sunk, Hollywood and the music industry. The fact that you can take a digital file, you can copy it as many times as you want, and it will never lose fidelity, and it can proliferate throughout the entire planet. So we associate digital files with not scarcity, with the opposite of that, with basically proliferation, right? And so these cryptographers were like, what if you could build something that was truly scarce but also digital? You could prove, just like gold, you could have mathematical certainty that there's only so much of it, but it's digital. And so that discovery or invention that took place in 2000, it really came together in 2008, and then the Bitcoin network began in 2009. That technology is sort of like the airfoil or like gunpowder. It's just an external physical thing. It's this invention. It's this reality. Okay, so then because now we, as a human race, we learned how to do that. Then people took pieces of that idea, pieces of that technology, and created their own cryptocurrencies. You could say, okay, well, now that I know how to build an airfoil, I can build my own airline, right? It's not the underlying technology I'm using. I'm just kind of putting my own marketing engine and business engine around it. And so because private companies are able to do that, well, so are governments, right? So a government could go and say, oh, I can take pieces of how Bitcoin works and I can create my own coin that's controlled by me. Bitcoin isn't controlled by anybody. There's no marketing team for Bitcoin. There's nobody actually telling you should go buy Bitcoin. I mean, there's companies like, like mine and others, but it's sort of more like telling you should go buy real estate. It's just like this external thing. And I'm being like, this is a commodity. It's a digital commodity. And I believe it has value. And so my company helps you buy it and other companies help you buy it, but we don't create it. We don't control it. There's nobody that controls Bitcoin. And so that's why that's in contrast to CBDCs, which are centralized. Right. So just like because Bitcoin is a ledger that's decentralized, you could take that and you could create a centralized ledger. And then, like you said, not only could JP Morgan do that with changing your mortgage interest rates, but this is happening in China now. The idea of a national ID and a central bank digital currency, these are intertwined, because if you think about it, how could you ever have a CBDC without a digital ID? You couldn't have it, because how would the accounts be associated with people's identities? The government would not only need to issue a CBDC, but they would need to issue centralized IDs. And they would have to do that and have to track you through all of the transactions that you make. And so that's what happens in China. Actually, they have been piloting CBDs, centralized currencies intertwined with their social credit system for some time now. So if you have a low social credit score in China, the goods and services that you're able to procure with the currency that's issued by the government is constrained. So they won't let you, for example, if you have spoken out against the government to the point that you've lost your privileges to travel, if you go try to use your money in your digital wallet to buy a train ticket, they will not let you buy it. The transaction will simply be declined. And so we were on, frankly, a bad trajectory these last maybe 8 to 10 years. And it looked, pretty much inevitable that we were going to get a CBDC in this country and that it was the future. Whether there is a CBDC in this country or not, it's really impossible to stop Bitcoin. So, I always tell people, if you're concerned about CBDCs, yes, you can do things again with policy and with, voting in elections to try to prevent them from taking hold. You could, I think that there's been some interesting executive orders and even legislation in the United States that seeks to constrain the development of CBDCs. I mean, actually, the Federal Reserve, I took screenshots. They have been actively researching CBDCs. They had job descriptions that I found. at some of the Federal Reserve banks where they were like looking for CBDC researchers. It was definitely going to happen. But all of that has stopped. Yes, and your savings have an expiry date with CBDC. That's a very good point, Colette. So one of the things they can do is say, we need to stimulate the economy with more spending, with more consumer spending. And so what we can do is go in and that those dollars in your wallet, we can put an expiry date on them. So you have to spend them within a certain amount of time, thereby stimulating the economy. There's very, very fine-tuned control, right, over the consumer economy. So that was certainly on the way to happening. And it was even possibly the case that they were going to, mount a full frontal attack on Bitcoin, because that's the one that could mess up that plan. And with the change, with the vibe shift, things are looking a lot better. I mean, I don't want to get complacent about it, but now is the time for people in the Bitcoin industry like me to build like crazy and create a reality like out in the world that just sort of like has to be dealt with. Like if enough people have Bitcoin, use Bitcoin, there's enough businesses that have it. And in fact, the financialization of Bitcoin, where now you have big TradFi companies who are like offering Bitcoin products, it's a mixed bag. I don't love that because obviously they have their own interests and their own agenda. But the more people that are invested in Bitcoin, the harder it is to constrain and shut it down, or not that it could ever be shut down, but the harder it is to like restrict access to it. And so I think these next few years, whether this period lasts or not, now is the time to kind of like take action and learn about it. It's not that intuitive. It's a new technology, so you just have to kind of be patient with yourself and allow yourself some time and to take some time to learn about it.
Yeah, I mean, in one of the ideas is, if China begins banning something like Bitcoin, obviously this is something you should probably own. And I saw that Colette was saying right there that, the European Union is now bringing about digital identifications, digital IDs. So the next step through their central banks is most likely going to be a central bank digital currency. We know that this was the pre-planned infrastructure for the world pre-Trump. And you're right, with the Trump administration, they came in and they've announced a strategic Bitcoin reserve, the sovereign wealth fund, which the strategic Bitcoin reserve will be a part of that, which they also will throw a few other cryptocurrencies in there. And then we did have a few different bills that did pass the House of Representatives and that are in play. And one of them did say that the Federal Reserve cannot create a central bank digital currency. And if permission is given to by Congress, which means that they'd have to go back to Congress and get permission to, that it cannot be programmable ever, which is pretty amazing, I think, but we all know how legislation works. If we're going to have something like that, it needs to be a constitutional amendment because it becomes much, much harder to change that at the end of the day. Now, I know a lot of people out there, and I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, talking about cryptocurrency, and I read the comments and I see people like, Bitcoin was created by the CIA and all of this stuff. Why is it now that we're seeing billions of dollars of inflows of institutional investors in the Bitcoin? And I mean, I would say cryptocurrency, but the majority stake for everybody out there is Bitcoin. The money is flowing into Bitcoin. And even though that we had 1 billion shed off today just from this, don't worry about this up and down volatility that's going on right now, because it's the future. And I think that that's what people truly need to understand, that you're not investing today for tomorrow. You're investing today for 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, because once we have mainstream adoption, that this is going to change the world and how the financial systems operate.
Right. Well, two points on that. I just want to go back to something interesting that you said, which is about the need eventually for a constitutional amendment, because that would be a much more powerful way of preventing financial tyranny. So I agree with that. There's no reason to oppose that. I mean, I absolutely 100% agree with you. But I just want to draw a real quick distinction for your audience, which is that there is the legal framework around a thing, an external reality, and then there's that reality itself, right? So for example, the Second Amendment gives Americans, prevents the government from infringing upon our natural right to bear arms that pre-existed any government, right? So that's powerful because it gives you a mechanism to fight against injustice with respect to your right to bear arms. But The actual thing that enforces the Second Amendment, even higher than the Supreme Court, is the existence of an armed population, right? That is actually the thing. It's not words on paper extolling the importance of the thing. It's just the fact that we have an armed population. We're a nation of riflemen, and that protects our liberties much better than any piece of paper. So for Bitcoin, it's actually very similar, right? So we could have a constitutional amendment that says Bitcoin can never be taken away from you. Financial tyranny isn't allowed, but the physical existence of you possessing Bitcoin in yourself, right? Bitcoin does not have to be in some other institution. It doesn't have to be held in a bank. It doesn't have to be held in a vault. It can be held by you at home. It's like gold. So you possessing Bitcoin, each and every person possessing Bitcoin, creates this physical reality, and our ability to transact with each other then cannot be stopped. It cannot be stopped, because I could communicate with you privately through an encrypted channel, and I could send you Bitcoin through an encrypted channel. And at the end of that transaction, I could prove and know that I no longer have that Bitcoin and that you do. And there's nobody else that can stop it, because if you try to spy on that transaction, it looks like encrypted garbage, like any other encrypted message. They don't know what's in it, right? So there's actually no way to stop it, as long as people know how to use it, and as long as they actually have it going in. So I would just encourage people to think about that. Like, I don't want to. I think we're sometimes too reliant on these sort of the expectation that our society will always be so cohesive, will always respect the rule of law, will always follow the Constitution. And, I hope that is the case, but we don't actually have to rely on that as like a...
Well, history has proven that to be bullshit anyway, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at the first two amendments, the first and the second, or the fourth and the fifth. I mean, they will tear that down at every chance and opportunity they get. And I've been a proponent for a long time of a digital Bill of Rights, and I think that's something that we need: a preservation of our first, our fourth, or fifth, and our 14th Amendment rights within the digital infrastructure and the digital layer. And I believe that cryptocurrency needs to be added in there, in the sense of our privacy within our financial transactions as well, because that falls in that realm of the Fourth and the Fifth Amendment.
Absolutely. Yep.
But what Congress does with that, and how the broad lines of laws that they make from that, that's a different question, right? That's where we have to go in there, and we have to choose our representatives wisely. And power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And when you're talking about $1 billion or $1 trillion asset, multi-trillion-dollar asset, obviously power is going to try to concentralize, even though it's a decentralized framework.
Well, they won't be able to centralize Bitcoin, but what they will do is, because they have a money printer, so they will print money and buy Bitcoin from the open market, as much as, basically everyone has a price, right? So you could just, like theoretically, right, you could just print billions and billions and even trillions of dollars if you had to, and people will eventually give up their Bitcoin and just sell it to you. I mean, many people will, hopefully not everybody, but that's the theory behind like this. I mean, Bitcoin is absolutely scarce. It's actually mathematically possible to prove at any point. You could go to any computer and you can run a simple command that will show you the number of Bitcoins in circulation with certainty. That's not something that you can do with anything else, including not gold. Yeah. And so because it's so scarce, the demand for Bitcoin is reflected only in its price. So that's different actually than anything else, right? Because if gold becomes more valuable, then the profitability of gold mining and refining, prospecting, and so on, the process of finding more gold, responds to that higher price, right? And then there's more gold refined in general, and then the price is stabilized a little bit. Mm-hmm. So there's supply and demand. So in Bitcoin, supply is fixed. It cannot change. You cannot mine Bitcoin faster if more people want it. You cannot go find some in an asteroid, like we have asteroids floating around in the asteroid belt full of gold and silver. Within our lifetimes, gold will be, I believe, this is a provocative statement for your audience, I believe that in our lifetimes, just like aluminum used to be incredibly scarce and valuable, even more valuable per ounce than gold, but now has become something that we all drink out of. Okay, right. Gold will be like that. Gold will be used so it's so useful. It's such an incredibly useful chemical as an element. It's useful for so many things. The only reason we don't use it is because it's scarce. But there are these like what is it called? 665 Psyche, I believe. There are these gigantic asteroids in the asteroid belt. They're not that far away, frankly, and we already have the technology to kind of go get them if we needed to. And we'll be towing those into Earth orbit, and we'll be mining those, and we'll be making basically, everything out of gold. That will happen, and so, gold is really scarce in Earth's crust, but not in the universe, right? Bitcoin for the next, as long as humans are alive, million years, the number of Bitcoins cannot be changed.
Right.
Isn't that crazy? It's
like very hard
to like wrap your head around.
And now with that, so 21 million Bitcoin ever will be in existence. We're at, I believe, 19.5 million that have been mined. So there's only roughly 1.5 million left. The last one will be mined in 2130, somewhere around that time frame.
Yeah, you got it right. Yeah.
And so with that, and I think that this is the appealing point to everybody out there, is what is the retail, what is the average consumer level of adoption of Bitcoin right now? How many people in the world, percentage wise, own Bitcoin?
That is hard to estimate, and for two reasons. It's probably around 100 to 200 million, which is crazy. It's a lot of people. I always cite that number, and they think, oh, that's not that many people. But if you think about it, to stop Bitcoin, 200 million people would all have to agree at the same time that they don't want it anymore.
Right.
Like, that's not happening. It would be like 200 million people doing anything. I mean, it's impossible. So for those who say, oh, Bitcoin may die on the vine, like, for anybody that suddenly loses interest in it for whatever reason, there's more people every day that are using it than those exiting. Actually, it's basically true that no matter how the price moves, even in a price crash, there's more people today using Bitcoin than there were yesterday, very consistently. So about 200 million, but then you can add to that, because there's a lot of people who own Bitcoin in these financial products, right? Like an ETF or something like that. And so on paper, right, it's in a vault, it's in custody with Coinbase Prime, and it's brought to you by BlackRock. But you have a legal claim to some amount of Bitcoin, and so you're not in that count of 200 million who are believed to be like interacting with Bitcoin on the Bitcoin network. So it's hard to estimate, but it's, and we have a question. How much does Bitcoin cost? Do you mind if I take that real quick?
Yeah, go right ahead.
It's like really important, because I just had a conversation yesterday with somebody who said something similar, not exactly what you're saying, but she said, it's too late, I can't afford a Bitcoin, right? And it's very hard to get past this unit bias where you're like, I want $1, I want a Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is digital, right? So it can be, if you could imagine, you probably learned in math class that you can keep moving the decimal point as many times as you need and just get a smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller number. And Bitcoin's like that. So even though the supply is completely fixed, there's actually, technically there's a limit temporarily, but that's very pedantic. There's technically like no limit to how many times you can move that decimal point. So so the thought experiment goes like this. Imagine that in some cataclysm, there's 21 million Bitcoins in circulation, but 20,999,999 are all gone. They're lost. Somebody lost them in their seed phrase or wallet, they're locked. There's one Bitcoin left for all of humanity to use. Is that a disaster? Well, no, not at all. You just take that Bitcoin. Let's say there's 10 billion people. You divide it by 10 billion people, and everybody has the same amount. There's no limit to how much you can divide it. It's just a number. And so you can buy fractions of it. So the mistake people make, and that I see all the time, is they say, I can't buy a Bitcoin. It costs $100,000. I mean, that's a lot of money, $100,000. People don't have that much money. That's very, very few people own a whole Bitcoin at this point. It's very rare. And it doesn't have to be, it doesn't make, there's no advantage to having 1 versus 0.9 versus 0.1 versus 0.01. It's really just a mechanism for saving for the long term. So if you have $5, you can buy $5 worth of Bitcoin. You're going to get 0.00002 Bitcoin or whatever, right? But that amount one day may be able to be traded for something that you value that's much higher price. right? Because maybe Bitcoin goes up in price. So nobody knows where the price is going, but it's important to kind of let go of that unit bias that you need a whole one.
Right. And, you know, for everybody out there, in the context of this is an emerging technology, roughly about 4% of the global population own some sort of Bitcoin, whether it's under $1,000, $100, and it's grown over the last few years, obviously. But most of that is institutional adoption and just taking estimates from the inflows into the traditional markets, right? Mm-hmm. So not people actually own that Bitcoin. They own it maybe through an ETF or IBET, whatever it might be. But 4%, if you go back to 1996, 1997, and you start looking at the internet and you start looking at the transactions that were occurring through online stores, pets.com, Amazon, whatever it might be. I mean, they roughly in about 2001 only had about 3% of the actual market cap of the entire retail market. Now that sits at about 97 to 98%. Wow. And I want people to understand that that's technological adoption. And that's what we're going to be going through over the course of the next 5, 10, 15, and 20 years. Totally. And so as that begins to occur, that price, the value, the intrinsic value of that Bitcoin is going to go up. And it's going to go up massively, especially when you start to have nation state adoption. We have El Salvador who's buying Bitcoin. You have other countries around the world that are buying Bitcoin. But Donald Trump has declared, I'm going to buy Bitcoin. They're now converting Bitcoin over from that they've taken from criminals, but eventually they're going to utilize probably tariff money to go out there and make Bitcoin purchases. The moment that happens, you better hope that you're in the Bitcoin because the price is going to skyrocket.
Well, it's funny that and that brings it back to your previous point, which I didn't address, which was like why now? Like why are these billionaires, why are these governments interested in doing this now? And the conspiracy theorist in me tells me that they see the writing on the wall with the dollar, right? We need something. We need something for when the dollar becomes even more debased than it is today. You know, somebody in the chat is like, if you would have said 37 trillion in debt back in 1913, I mean, this number is like, it just, it defies understanding. It's not even a real number. It's just whatever. It's just vomited out onto a computer screen. I mean, it has no meaning. It's just insane. $37 trillion. You know that if you, $37 trillion, I can't remember, there's a really great calculation, which is like something like, if you went back to, year zero, the year Jesus was born, and you spent $1 million a day up until today, you still wouldn't have spent like $1 trillion, something like that. I'm sorry, I don't have the math in my head, but it's something crazy like that. Like it's a number that we don't interact with every day. So you say trillion with a T and it just goes by, but it's like incomprehensibly big. It'll never be paid back. There's no way, barring one thing. If we can discover some kind of like fundamental scientific breakthrough, like if we discover an energy source where we have infinite energy completely free, or there's these kind of like out there ideas, like if we actually could do something like that, maybe we could grow our way out of it, but you can't count on that, and it's unlikely. And so I would say that these billionaires and these governments are looking at it and saying, the dollar has already been mortally wounded. It just hasn't died yet. It's bleeding to death right now. It looks like it's alive. Its heart is beating. Its brain is functioning. Its vital signs are there, but it's already been mortally wounded, and there's no going back. And so they're looking and saying, well, what do you do instead? What are the choices? You have the euro. No. You have the yuan. Not going to happen. You have gold, but the thing about gold is, the only way you can't run a global digital economy on gold. So gold has a very important role to play, I think, in anybody's personal finances, which is gold. I believe, and this is not financial advice, but this is personal advice. I believe everybody should have enough gold to be able to escape the country that they're in. Because if you look back in history, when you had genocides and you had displacement of people, even today, when you need to escape, what do? You bribe your way onto an airplane, you bribe your way onto a boat. How do you get there? What if you have to cross hundreds of miles to get there? You're using things, bearer assets, tangible assets like gold. If you can have gold coins that you can bring with you to get the hell out of where you are to protect your family, I think that that's a great use of gold, and really nothing else can do that. Not even Bitcoin, really, because the chances that you're going to, because it's not widely adopted. It could do that, except that it's not widely adopted. So the people you encounter on that journey are not going to have Bitcoin, probably not going to accept it, right? So gold has that use case, but barring that, which is like, thank God, unlikely, right? Barring that, how are you going to build a global 24/7 AI-driven economy backed by gold? It is impossible. It is impossible. And for those who have, like Peter Schiff, who have this idea that we're going to tokenize gold. Okay, let's work through how that works. So gold is a bearer asset, meaning I know I have it because I literally have it, and I know you have it because I hand it to you, and I don't have it anymore. Okay, it's not an IOU, it's not a receipt for something, it's not in an account. It's either I have it or you have it. Okay, so if you wanted to make a tokenized gold-backed economy, what you would do is you would trust some centralized authority, like a government or a bank, to hold the gold in a vault and then give you a digital token, which is basically like an IOU. And the IOU says, I promise to give you your gold if you ever ask for it. Okay, well, I've been around the block enough times to have seen that not play out very well. So IOU trust-based systems like that are exactly why we're in the situation that we're in with the dollar. And it's exactly why historically every fiat currency that has ever existed has lasted about 80 to 120 years. That's it. And we're almost at 120 here with the dollar by some measures. So there's really no alternative except Bitcoin when you think about it. Gold, again, it's a good thing for you to have some, great. But, this idea that we just need to give up the idea that we're not going to have any digital currency. Like, it's going to happen. It's just not going to be a central bank digital currency if we can help it, right?
Well, and I think that's a great point. And it's something that I've said here is that number one is Pandora's box has been opened. With artificial intelligence, you are not closing that. It is happening. And because that's happening, we can understand that there's going to be a complete infrastructuring of the economic systems of this world. And this is where we get into the talks of tokenization and the new digital landscape. Now, going back to what you were talking about there about the debt, $34 trillion in debt, how are we going to pay that off? Well, it's interesting that 80% of that debt is actually issued into bonds that are held in 401ks, that are held into public investment funds. It's held by the people. And so I could see something. I know Scott Bessent and Trump have something going on with the sovereign wealth fund. It's speculation at the minimal, but utilizing the sovereign wealth fund as a bearer of U.S. asset base. So Trump, under the big beautiful bill, just unlocked trillions of dollars worth of U.S. assets in national parks and on federal land, right? Basically unregulated leases that he's given to corporations. Where does that money flow? That flows into the sovereign wealth fund. He took 10% of Intel. That flows into the sovereign wealth fund. He begins to go out there and allow these companies to, give 5%, 10%, 2%, whatever it might be, back to the United States of America, which is held by the people in the sovereign wealth fund. And that would obviously have to be done through a constitutional amendment because we wouldn't want Congress to be able to have any part of that. But eventually what you get is you get the profitability from the sovereign wealth fund that then pays into and starts to buy back that debt. I actually calculated it out. If we looked at it with $124 trillion worth of U.S. assets, and we're not even looking at, we're just looking at natural resources, oil and gas sales. We're looking at what's going on in Texas, the AI revolution. If we just looked at certain percentage bearing of the patents that are being developed and a percentage return less than 1% back to the sovereign wealth fund, you find that in 20 years, or within less than 8 years, the national debt would be paid off. And within 20 years, the American people would have a UBI, but not a UBI based upon the free market dynamic, which is completely different than the socialist communist universal basic income, and a net worth of each American up to about $1 to $2 million. And so it's pretty fascinating. But when you add that in, Bitcoin is a key part of that puzzle, because the strategic Bitcoin reserve plays directly in to the sovereign wealth fund. And if we understand where the Bitcoin price is going and how Bitcoin operates, then we can know that price stability, it goes back to like the SDR with the IMF. So they issue a bucket of various different currencies around the world to regulate their interest rates that they're going to loan out to third world countries or whatnot. But we're doing the same idea, but instead with assets. We're doing it with real estate. We're doing it with land. We're doing it with natural resource sales and land leases. We're doing it with percentage interest in AI companies and other companies. And then we're doing it with Bitcoin and Bitcoin infrastructure. Here's like I was telling you, AI and blockchain are married at the hip, whether people realize it or not. We have three main components that make up blockchain. We have data, we have computation, we have energy. And those three things are the same things that make up artificial intelligence. And so why is Donald Trump all big about blockchain? Why does he want America to be the blockchain capital of the world? Because it becomes an ancillary backbone for artificial intelligence, which is a national security concern. Because if China gets to ASI before the United States of America, it's over. This is farmland and we're exterminated. But if we can beat them, then we win. And the way that we beat them is making sure that we have the infrastructure that can last, a decentralized infrastructure for artificial intelligence. And when you can backbone the AI infrastructure that's being developed on top of a blockchain infrastructure, you're light years ahead of China.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I like what you said about blockchain and AI, because it's hard to kind of visualize it, but think about it this way. So today we have some amount of economic activity that is, all of economic activity pretty much is orchestrated by humans ultimately, right? We make decisions about how to spend resources. And then some of those decisions are like, oh, we're going to spend resources on our own AI agents to go do work for us, but ultimately we're paying for that and we're telling the agents what to do. And we're going to go into an era here in the next few years where agents themselves are going to be conducting economic activity independently of the people. So you'll say to your agent in an abstract way, go make me a company. Here's, $1,000, stand up a company, build the software, right? And they'll go out and talk to other agents who can do things like set up the corporate structure and set up the software stack and so on. And they have that $1,000 that you gave them, and they're going to need to economize that and decide how to spend it. And they're going to move extremely fast at the speed of light. And so what kind of money can they use in order to do that work? Like, they can't use gold, they can't use dollars. Dollars sit in bank accounts. Bank accounts must be owned by people. And dollars can't be divided into like hundreds of millions of pieces the way that Bitcoin can. So AI will need Bitcoin in order to be able to interface with other agents, because it's a bearer asset, right? So there's nobody that owes. So one agent pays the other a tiny fraction of a Bitcoin to do a tiny amount of work or give it a tiny amount of energy. That Bitcoin is now out of that first agent's wallet and in the other agent's wallet. And it's a bearer asset, and that transaction is over, and those two agents never have to interact again. There's no settlement, there's no thing that has to be like wrapped up later there. And so when you have billions of these agents or even more of them, and they're all talking to each other, coordinating with each other, trying to do work on our behalf, they're going to need cryptocurrency in order to do that. And in my view, it has to be Bitcoin, because like I said, if they use another one, that's fine. That can work in the short term for certain tasks. But ultimately, what are they going to do after they finish the payment with that cryptocurrency? They're probably going to eventually convert it all to Bitcoin, because that's the only thing that has sort of it's the only thing for which there's no third party risk. Right. There's no counterparty risk. So that's where you would kind of park any money that you would make in that world. So yeah, it's something I've been thinking about lately. It's kind of interesting.
Awesome. Well, guys, listen, this is what I want you to do. If you're interested in getting into cryptocurrency, getting into Bitcoin, if you're enjoying this conversation, I want you to join the $5 Bitcoin Club. Really, I've been doing it for a few weeks now. It's actually pretty cool. So if you guys remember like an old app, Acorns, where it like rounds up your dollars, this is what they do, the $5 Bitcoin Club. Dave, talk about it a little bit if you want to.
Yeah, sure. So, so what's interesting about this club is typically if you go to like Coinbase or whatever, you're gonna pay fees, and you're gonna pay what's called spread. So what spread is, it's like they bought Bitcoin for a certain price, and then they mark it up, they raise the price, and then they sell it to you at that higher price. Then they also take a fee, which is like typically like 1 to 3 to 4%. So we're trying a new model, and I don't think anybody else is doing this, so we'll see. And it's $5 a month, so you pay that. It's $5 a month subscription. And then once you've paid that, you can buy up to $10,000 of Bitcoin with no fee and no spread per month, right? So, so that's how it works. So the way Coinbits works is you sign up. It's only for US users right now. I'm sorry for those who are in Europe. I see some of you there. It's for US users. You link your bank account, and then you're able to pretty much buy Bitcoin at the click of a mouse. You can also use, on the phone as well. And you can set up savings plans. So like you were saying, like roundups, right? So we can track your expenses for you, and you can round up all of your purchases nearest dollar. And then we save your spare change for you in Bitcoin. And then you withdraw it, right? So we don't want to hold your Bitcoin for you. We just help you get it, right? And then we also have programs and people who are ready to help you. If you want to set up your own wallet, we'll teach you how to do that. We'll help you get the Bitcoin out and into your own wallet so that you have it and then you possess it yourself. But that's how it works. So you round up your spare change. You can also just buy. You buy $5, you can buy $20, you can buy $1,000, whatever you want. And like I said, that converts, and then you withdraw that from Coinbits and it's yours. So yeah, $5 a month sort of unlocks all of that. These kinds of subscriptions used to cost a lot more, I would say. Yeah. And then the deal on Bitcoin was not as good. So we just rolled this out, and like it's brand new since last week. So we're seeing a lot of early response, and it's really exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, I mean, I make those links really, really easy. So redpills.tv/Bitcoin. This is newly set up. So if it does navigate to redpills.tv, if you look right there on redpills.tv, there's a button that says join now, the $5 Bitcoin Club. You can use that. This link right there, redpills.tv/Bitcoin, should send you directly over to Coinbits, and you can sign up directly there. You'll see my mug on that page that you get there. And so sign up, and if you guys have any questions about that, feel free to send myself questions, or sign up over there and send those questions over to Dave and the Coinbits team, because they're definitely going to help you out. Bro, this was an awesome conversation. I appreciate you coming on with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate that, Josh. And sorry if my audio, somebody's saying it's not loud enough. I don't know if you could hear me, but move the mic closer. But yeah, I'm happy to be here, and I'm very happy to come back anytime. So
awesome, man. Well, we're going to have you back here in a few weeks, and I look forward to talking to you then, Dave. Take care.
Amazing. All right. Take care.
All right, guys. redpills.tv/Bitcoin. And listen, this is something that I've been talking about for a long, long time, that crypto is the future of finance. And I know that that's hard for a lot of people to truly understand. And I know people are big on gold and silver. And hey, look, if you're in gold and silver, great, buy more. Also buy some Bitcoin. If you're loving how much you're making in gold right now, and gold's just skyrocketing up and silver skyrocketing up, imagine doing 10 or 20x that of what happens over the course of the next 5 to 10 years, with Bitcoin. It's definitely well worth it. So if you're interested in that, redpills.tv/Bitcoin. And I want to start integrating more economic news into these shows. So obviously we're going to start doing that. Now, the first rule of researching anything, and I need people to truly understand this, because I see this all. I just watched a video last week, and it was Candace Owens. And listen, I know some people are like, oh, Candace Owens is a plant, or she's fake, or Candace Owens is a hero. I'm neutral on the situation. I look at information, I look at data, I look at research. And she was talking about this Egyptian plane going back and forth to the various different TPUSA events. And the only thing I could think about when she was talking about this was correlation does not equate causation. Correlation does not equate causation. Too many mistakes for proximity of proof, right? So what she was talking about is that there's this correlation between these two military plane units that seem to be in the same state, not necessarily in the same city, as TPUSA Faith and sometimes Charlie Kirk. But here's the key that she was not looking at in the research, is she was not taking into account every single TPUSA event happening throughout the United States at that specific time, as well as all the times those two planes came into the United States and were not in the same city and state as those events. And when you start to look at that data, it completely changes. So correlation does not equate causation. And I think this is really, really important. Too many mistakes, proximity for proof, two people meet equals a plan, right? Two events align, it's a conspiracy. They worked here, owned by a company. That's not truth, that's correlative pattern recognition. Delve deeper into the pattern, find evidence, context, associations, and ultimately follow the money, but don't simply follow emotion or preconceived bias or belief. Separate source from spin. Test what you believe, not just confirm it. Know that context changes everything. Truth doesn't fear investigations. Facts don't need belief. And those who seek it must walk a thin line between skepticism and faith in reason. The real researcher isn't a believer. They're a seeker of truth, no matter where it leads. And I find this really, really important because we're getting into this point right now to where the world is radically changing. There is a lot of information being brought to you on the social media circuits. Psychological warfare operations are active, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, whether it's TikTok or X. There are people out there, organizations out there, governments out there, intelligence agents out there. They want you to think a certain way. They want your actions and your influence derived in a certain path towards some agenda and not your own. And they will try to influence you in any way, shape, or form. In other words, we have to stop listening bluntly to what people say. Remember the motto with the Repill project: never believe anything anybody tells you, no matter who they are, what authority they possess or profess, unless you can prove it with your own research, investigation, through your own inquiry, and through your own volition. And so one of the key points of that, the first rule, is correlation does not equate causation. That just because two things are similar or two things are associated in some degree does not represent a grand conspiracy behind them. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people out there doing in the research. And it's a mistake that I've made multiple times before. So General Michael Flynn today, speaking about independent journalism, and this is right in line with the topic we're talking about. Listen to this.
Let's not let emotions drive us. It has driven me at times. And let's take a step back, look at the information that's being presented, make some judgments about the information and about the facts, do some research, because if you want to continue in this world where people really do believe you because you're an honest guy and you come across very honestly, then you have to drive for the truth, right? Because the one thing about the truth, and I learned this as a young officer, there's three sides of the truth. There's your side, there's my side, and then there's the truth. So what we want to try to do is drive ourselves closer to what the actual truth is. And do you ever find it? I don't know, but you can get really close to it. Let's not let
Absolutely. And who's driving that? It's the independent media. It is you and me. We are the media. It isn't the mainstream media anymore. It isn't the political pundits. It is the people that are on social media, the influencers on social media who are out there speaking their mind, their opinions, and aligning their beliefs to it. Although it might not be the truth, like General Flynn said, there are three types of truth. There's your truth, my truth, and then the actual truth. And the question is who can get closer to actuality? And so I find this really important. We're entering into a time frame where there is going to be information coming out. There is going to be more people getting indicted. I believe this week, potentially John Brennan the next week or two. More people getting indicted. There is going to be information warfare coming out about a lot of different people. You're seeing this right now on Kash Patel and his girlfriend. Is that a conspiracy? Yeah, there's something weird and unusual about all that. Kash Patel and Alexis Wilkins. Her background is just weird. It's like a Hollywood upbringing of grooming. I don't know. Is Kash compromised? I don't think so. I think he's a lot smarter than that. Do I give a shit about Kash Patel using the FBI's plane to go from here to there? No. The dude needs extra protection for the job that he's doing, and so he's not going to fly commercial. He's going to use the FBI plane, and Trump's already authorized it. Do I give a shit about him flying to go see his girlfriend? No, I don't. Okay, that's just normal standard operating procedure for somebody in the cabinet positions of the president of the United States, specifically with many of these guys moving on the military bases for housing because they need extra protection for themselves and their families. Do I care that people are exploiting this and like, oh my God, calling it out? No, that's America, guys. We deserve to call these things out. So what I'm trying to understand here is that there is a war for your opinion. There's a war for your influence. And many, many people will try to stray you back and forth. All I say is do due diligence. Go out there and ensure that you are doing the best possible research that you can do prior to reporting on things. That's what I try to do. And as someone just said when I was just talking there, they said, well, you do that too, Josh. Well, yeah, that's what I just said. I said we all do it. And so the best thing we can do is recognize when we do it to change course and say, hey, I said this and I meant to say this, or this was wrong. I just did it last week on DEF CON 0 and Q After Dark. I said, oh my goodness, I misspoke. I said the wrong thing. Had to go back and correct myself. That's how we should hold ourselves. That level of integrity we should hold ourselves to. Some new news today. Nancy Pelosi will not seek re-election in 2024. Goodness, how things change. I thought she would die in office, but she will not be seeking re-election. Now, I haven't checked the news lately to see what the election results are for New York City mayor. I was actually just refreshing here real quick to see if any election results were coming in yet. Now, what we are seeing is 1 million New Yorkers claim they will flee the city if Mamdani wins tomorrow. So I think that's tomorrow. So the election's tomorrow. But I know there's a few other snap elections going on in New Jersey, I think, and a few other places. So 1 million New Yorkers say they will leave the city if Mamdani wins. Well, how about this? How about 1 million of you go out and vote? Because if 1 million of you go out and vote for Cuomo or Slawi, they'll probably win. This is from Polymarket, but I find it just odd because this has been floating around X everywhere. 1 million New Yorkers, I think it's actually 760,000 New Yorkers that were surveyed, said that they will leave New York. And then Greg Abbott of Texas says, well, you're not going to come here because if you do, we're going to charge you 100% tariff. Listen, vote. If you're in New York City, go out and vote. Vote with your conscience. If you want Sliwa or whatever his name is, go out and vote. Trump has came out and endorsed Cuomo. He said today, if communist candidate Zoran Mamdani wins the election for mayor of New York City, it is highly unlikely that I'll be contributing federal funds other than the very minimum as required to my beloved first home because of the fact that as a communist, this one great city has zero chance of success or even survival. It can only get worse with a communist at the helm. And I don't want to send, as president, good money after bad. It is my obligation to run the nation, and it is my strong conviction that New York City will become a complete and total economic and social disaster should Mamdani win. His principles have been tested for over 1,000 years, and never once have they been successful. I would much rather see a Democrat who has had a record of success win than a communist with no experience and a record of complete and total failure. He was nothing as an assemblyman, ranked at the bottom of the class, and as mayor of potentially, again, the greatest city in the world. He has no chance to bring it back to the former glory. We must also remember this: a vote for Chris Sliwa, who looks much better without the beret, is a vote for Mamdani. Whether you personally like Andrew Cuomo or not, you really have no choice. You must vote for him and hope he does a fantastic job. He is capable of it. Mamdani is not. So the Republican president, populist president, going out there and endorsing Andrew Cuomo. It's really that bad in New York City, huh? That's pretty crazy. Now, what do I think is going to happen? Well, I hope that Sliwa or Cuomo win. But I think that Trump's right. A vote for Sliwa is a vote for Mamdani. So if you vote for Cuomo, you might have a chance to stop communist takeover in New York City. Although and don't think I'm evil or mad or anything like that. It would be interesting to see what happens if Mamdani wins New York City. This give America the first perception of how communists would actually act in an American city. I mean, think Minnesota, Minneapolis, for example, or LA. It can only get worse, and it will get much, much worse. Chicago's ran by a socialist, a communist, if you want to look at it like that. And it's horrible. So, but I don't think the people of New York City are ready to put up with that. And I don't want to see that happen. And yeah, just like Colette says, New York City will be taken over by Muslim, and they will buy every property and force others to sell. That's how they take over, because that's what they did to London. And you remember Mohammed's 3-point strategy: immigrate, replicate, eliminate. And this is what Mamdani and all of them will do to New York City. And this is what they are going to try to do to every U.S. city out there. Now, this is interesting. Democrats are set to flip governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general races in Florida per state navigate forecast. This is absurd. How could the Republicans, at a time like this, lose Virginia? This is nuts. I mean, Trump, you're seeing the news media work against Donald Trump once again. And this is how you know the man is still a threat. I'm seeing all the polls come out. Donald Trump, disapproval rating, not approval, disapproval rating, the 59%. Why? Oh, because of SNAP benefits. Fuck that. Bullshit. The voting American populace are not out there saying, I hate Donald Trump. They're actually more so happy that Donald Trump is holding back from the Democrats. We know that. Why? 59% of all people accepting SNAP benefits are illegal immigrants. And so today, Donald Trump announced that they are going to be releasing some tariff revenue for SNAP benefits that a judge has ordered. But it's going to be very minimal payments, and that there's going to be a process. This is exactly what I said on Q after hours yesterday. I said, watch, he's going to release some money, and they're going to have to go in, but it's not going to be their full paycheck, because what they want is they want the illegal immigrants to come out there and identify themselves so I can go in there and take them out. Imagine what would happen to SNAP if 59% of the people were removed from this country and sent back to their own countries. Okay. What is it? It's like you're at no, Steve. I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I said it would be interesting to see what happens, like Chicago, LA. Maybe understand how I'm speaking here. So when we start to get into the context here, so I'm talking about this comment right here. And I think he was referencing me talking about seeing what happens if Mamdani wins. No, I was being facetious, because it's going to look like Chicago. It's going to look like LA, or it already does. So SNAP benefits, going back into it. For people that are on SNAP benefits, I truly do feel for you, because you know what? You have been neglected by your own government, because the majority of the benefits that you actually could be receiving right now are going to illegal immigrants. Do you understand that we wouldn't have this funding crisis right now if that money was not funding illegal immigrants over the Biden administration? We wouldn't have $34 trillion worth of debt. You are speaking stupid. Trump is a threat for 3.2 more years, okay? Huh? Dude, practice your English, brother. Yeah, you can't even write a complete sentence to make sense. Anyways, it's interesting. I got like Facebook comments and YouTube comments over on my right hand side, and I can kind of see them out of my corner of my eye. So it's like sometimes people are saying stuff, and it's like, wait, what the hell did you just say? All right. Now, last week we talked about the Firestorm event inbound. We talked about the setup, what they're doing, why the Democrats have shut down the government, because they want people hungry. They want the hungry people to go out there and protest and riot because they want their $5,000, $6,000 paychecks back from the federal government assistance. They want the illegal immigrants ignited. They want the illegal immigrants to go out there and start raising hell in the streets because they're no longer getting paid by the Democrats who promised them under the Biden administration when they came here. Not only that is you want the federal employees, the federal law enforcement officers, the military, you want them not to get paid, because what that does is that just pisses them off, and it's going to make them not want to put up with the bullshit and the chaos that's going to ensue from the people that want to get paid to do their job. This is the ultimate scenario of the firestorm that we've talked about that the Democrats have set up. Now, what have we talked about? That there are active sleeper cells inside the United States of America, that these came over the southern border. This is what I've been saying for 5 years or 4 years now, okay? We talked about it, the firestorm event. 23 million illegal immigrants came over the southern border. We had Hezbollah Unit 910, we had ISIS, ISIL, we had Taliban, we had Al-Qaeda, all flowing over the southern border, Chinese military-age males. My whole thoughts on this were that one day you're going to see riots come about. When the riots come about, you're going to have paid agitators that are going to make it violent riots. And you're going to have all call police situations, National Guards all pulled to one side of the city. And then what happens is you have these terrorist cells that get activated. You don't have hundreds of them in big cities. You have thousands of them in big cities. And imagine what happens when 1,000 terrorists, and by the way, hundreds of thousands of them came over and distributed them amongst probably 20 different cities. Okay. So you have 1,000, let's just say in Minneapolis. When 1,000 of those terrorists break off into groups of 20, 50 groups of 20, and they go out there on active shooter situations, they take over armories, police armories, National Guard armories, they take over critical infrastructure and government. That's an insurrection that you cannot fight off. That is a situation that we're in the midst of right now if it happens. This is why Donald Trump has played this game. This is why Donald Trump has went to the Middle East. This is why he has warships off the coast of Venezuela. This is why he went to China. This is why he's pressuring the EU, because these are the globalist infrastructure that have allowed this to happen because they wanted the United States taken down for good. But he's utilized tariffs, trade, in the military, and direct kinetic strikes like on Iran as a deterrent to say, fuck around and find out. If they, in our country, get activated, like if Hezbollah Unit 910 gets activated inside the United States of America, the bombs are falling on Iran. Like, see how that works? If Chinese military age males get activated in the United States of America, bombs fall on China. If Tren de Aragua or cartels or gang members get activated into the city streets and begin rioting violently in the United States of America, bombs fall on Venezuela and Mexico. That's what Trump's doing right now. And it's a great deterrent. He probably went in there and told the Taliban, hey, just an FYI, if anybody from the Taliban or Al-Qaeda has active sleeper cells in the United States of America and they rise up and begin creating terror, bombs are going to fall on your country. He probably told it to the UAE, Qatar, guaranteed. If sleeper cells from the Middle East get activated in the United States of America, we're going to bomb the shit out of all of you. And they're probably like, well, we have nothing to do with that. Well, then ensure that it doesn't happen. And so now you have the world in frenzy. They're scared because if these sleeper cells do get activated, Trump's going to bomb the shit out of some countries. I think that's a great deterrent. I think that's a great mechanism. But we still have the potential today. Newly unsealed complaint reveals major ISIS-linked terror plot with multiple subjects arrested in the Eastern District of Michigan targeting the United States. According to the complaint, subjects had multiple AR-15 rifles, tactical gear, and a detailed plan to carry out an attack on America's soil. Apparently, this was supposed to be on Halloween. Thanks to the extraordinary diligence of U.S. Attorney Jerome Gorgon Jr., the FBI, and state and local law enforcement officers, this plot was stopped before innocent lives were lost. That's huge. And so the suspect identified in the Dearborn, Michigan, terror plot, Muhammad Ali and Majed Mohammed, accused of stockpiling weapons for ISIS-inspired attack, according to FBI affidavit. Well, there's your first sign. Now, you start to take this in the context with other things that we've seen over the course of the last 2 years, and you know that this is an active threat. So, Linda Sarsour, if you don't remember her from Kyer, she is admitting outright right now in this 46-second post right here of who funded Mamdani. Listen to this.
Right now, I'm a little more quiet because I'm on the quiet side of this race, but I'm going to tell you that once November 4th comes around, I will tell the story. The story is not just, that it's random that Zahran ascended to this place. It is our Muslim American communities. And I'll also say that it's Muslim money. The PACs that have supported Zahran, or a particular PAC that has supported Zahran, is probably over 80% of Muslim American donors in this country, high net donors, grassroots donors. And I want to make the point that the Unity and Justice Fund PAC, which is the CARE Super PAC, was the largest institutional donor to the pro-Zahran PAC.
Okay. Remember the Muslim Brotherhood references? CARE, Muslim Brotherhood, all these connections? George Soros money. This is what they're talking about, people. And so when she starts talking about grassroots Muslim money that is being raised, what they're talking about is terror network money being redirected to political campaigns. What they're talking about is money from other countries who are funding terrorism, George Soros networks money that are flowing into CARE as well as Muslim Brotherhood channels into the United States of America, supporting politicians to rise up, just like Ilham Omar, and so forth. So Zoham Mamdani is just another one. And that's their objective, to take over. This goes back to Muhammad's 3-point plan. Immigrate, replicate, eliminate. Our country is under invasion right now. And there is no greater time in the world to be more vigilant than ever before. And I hope that they find some loophole to begin removing all of these people with ties to radical Islam, as well as their terror funding networks. And I use that language very specifically. The United States Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, the Biden-Harris terrorist administration awarded over $9 million of illegal alien, or awarded over 9 million illegal alien social security numbers, including 9,000 who are on terror watch lists. You can't make this shit up. You seriously cannot make this shit up. And I'm hoping that the Trump administration goes out there and is able to reverse a lot of this. I believe this is also one of the main reasons why there's a lot of attention on the auto pen. Because if the president was not directing the executive, the departments under the executive branch, then things that they did and implemented that become null and void, like issuing social security numbers. Listen to this.
He's brilliant. He's going to be working to make sure that individuals who got social security numbers in this country should be using them for the right things, and they shouldn't be on our benefit programs. You know, we have over 6,000 individuals that have been identified through their work already that have been on the terrorist watch list, that they are known criminals.
How does that happen, Madam Secretary? How does that happen?
It happens when you put a train wreck like Joe Biden in the White House, and it's going to be a lot of work to clean it up. But just in the last 4.5 years, we've had over 9 million people get Social Security numbers that are not U.S. citizens. So they may be people who have some sort of legal status, but a lot of them are illegals that were given a Social Security number in just the last 4.5 years that we're going to have to figure out if they should be here, if they are here legally under a program, and if they are here illegally, then they certainly shouldn't be using that Social Security number to be on our programs, and they should be removed or given the opportunity to go home on their own. That's
the Biden administration committed treason. You get it, I get it, and now it's time to fix it. This is why we can't have nice things. Mexico is getting Nepal the chance of narco governments out. Massive amounts of protests swarmed the government and presidential palaces yesterday in direct retaliation against a mayor of one of the largest provinces in Mexico being assassinated by the cartels. They want the narco politicians out of Mexico. Now, this hinges on an announcement few hours after that Donald Trump has authorized, and said it hasn't happened yet, but authorized U.S. military to conduct strikes and intelligence gathering in Mexico. Wait a minute, who's been talking about this? JSOC and paramilitary units from the CIA active in Central and South America and Mexico? Who's also working with the cartels in Mexico? Oh, that's China. China's been training them. You got to remember, Russia and China had various different training facilities throughout Central America. You remember the big fuss that was put up? Actually, a lot of conservatives talked about this during 2022 and 2023 when China wanted to actually open up various different biolabs and training facilities in Central and Latin America, as well as Russia. We know that Chinese special forces have been training cartels within Mexico. This is one of the reasons why there's a prompt of 20,000 soldiers on the southern border. Now we're hearing word that the Trump administration is potentially going to start striking targets inside Mexico of cartels and related organizations. Good. James Comey. Lots of stuff coming out today about James Comey. Let's listen to King John Solomon and what he has to say.
All right, let's get down to some big bombshell news that just moved a couple of minutes ago over at justthenews.com. We've been following the story of James Comey. He's indicted for lying to Congress, saying he never authorized any of his staff to leak to the media. And late last week, as we told you, he played the victim card. I'm being maliciously prosecuted because Donald Trump hates me. Well, today, the Cash Patel FBI and the lead attorney prosecuting his case, Lindsay Halligan, well, they responded, and they responded with a lot of evidence. What did they respond with? James Comey's own emails and his own handwritten notes. And what do they show? They show that James Comey was clearly aware that his top aide was providing information anonymously to the news media. Not only was he aware of it, he wrote in a private email, "Good job, my friend," actually congratulating him when Dan Richman, one of his top lieutenants, told him what he had just done with the New York Times. Yes, just like the indictment said, the story is about Hillary Clinton's email, so it backs up the government's case that Comey was authorizing leaks to through his staff to reporters concerning a Hillary Clinton case, just like they argued. But they went a little bit further. It turns out that when Cash Patel found those burn bags in that secret room where a whole bunch of FBI evidence was sitting, they found something special, some handwritten notes by James Comey. What do those handwritten notes show? He appeared to be aware in September 2016 that of the U.S. intelligence intercept that Hillary Clinton had approved a plan to hang a fake Russian shingle on Donald Trump's house, campaign house. Now, that's important because the handwritten notes don't match with James Comey's testimony. James Comey told Congress, that doesn't sound familiar. I don't think I ever knew about that. He wrote about it in his hand notes. And finally, one will ask, well, why would James Comey do this? What was the motive? Today's emails that were just released in the court filing give us one other answer. He wrote to Dan Richman, his lieutenant, that he fully expected soon to be working for President-elect Hillary Clinton. That's right from the emails. So he was waiting to work for Hillary Clinton, and he thought that Hillary Clinton would be grateful for the way he did things in handling her email case. Uh-oh. That wasn't what the victim card I think James Comey was planning to play. But all of that emails, all of those letters, all those court filings, even the handwritten notes, we just posted them at Just the News.
All right. So what happened is Lindsay Halligan, the attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, a motion was filed by James Comey to dismiss the case because of lack of evidence. So Lindsay Halligan went out and published a multi-page report, including this memo right here, which is one of the ones referenced by John Solomon, with right there, journalist saying, was it Trump? And then he says, I mentioned New York Times plus Russia. And what he was doing is in the meeting with Obama, John Brennan, John Kerry, so forth. He was talking about how he mentioned to the New York Times the Russian narrative and how this played out. And this came about through his aide. So incriminating evidence shown there as Exhibit 13 that was sent in response to his motion to dismiss, which means that buckle up, James Comey, you're going to trial, and you're most likely going to be sentenced a very long time, because not only is there criminal perjury here, but there's treasonous conspiracy because of what this also opens up. And you can damn well bet your bank that Lindsay Halligan and the Eastern District of Virginia are investigating this much, much further than just perjury. The original indictment was sent, from Congress to the DOJ as perjury, but the DOJ, through discovery, can then expand on this and add other charges in if other charges are found. And since we have multiple grand juries being impaneled right now, most likely this one will be absorbed by the Florida grand jury that is being impaneled in January. We don't know for sure. This might just be handled in the Eastern District of Virginia, but they all might come to. And so my thoughts are, the way this is going to work is that you're going to have one in the Eastern District of Virginia. You're going to have one in the Southern District of Florida. They're going to be investigating the two same things with grand juries, starting one at James Comey, one at Mar-a-Lago. And they're going to discover January 6th. You're going to discover January 2020 election fraud. They're going to go into FISAgate, both of them. And then you're going to have two separate grand juries with two sets of indictments with various different points of treason or treasonous conspiracy that's going to bring it around to RICO. Telling you, pretty interesting how this is going to unfold, but we're going to watch it unfold over the course of the next few months. John Sullivan reports that 2 weeks before the 2020 election, the FBI targeted Trump campaign finances and issued an intelligence report attempting to link Trump to bogus financial crimes as part of an October surprise. All of this is coming out now, and it's so interesting. I have a lot on the FISAgate. I'm not going to go too much into it. One that I did want to bring up here was on Inauguration Day 2025. Well, millions of Americans were celebrating Donald Trump's inauguration, becoming the 47th president of the United States. Scumbags inside the FBI were busy stuffing burn bags, trying to get rid of any evidence of their wrongdoing. And this is new declassified reports coming out from DNI and the FBI. And so what we got is a cursory inventory of 9582 SCIF revealed the existence of classified documents, including documents believed to be the official records inside burn bags, which appeared to have been placed in the SCIF around the time frame of the 2025 presidential inauguration, Friday, January 17th, 2025, through Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025. A brief review of the contents of the burn bags revealed that some of the documents left behind may have come from a collection of records held by certain unidentified senior government officials at FBI headquarters. Now, I know, and you know, that there is probably shredded evidence in those burn bags. The burn bags were probably destroyed. Military had this information. Military preserved the data and the documents. That's my guess. But this is the cover story. Now, what does it mean? That FBI Director Wray is going to have a lot of questions to ask, especially destroying evidence of criminality and being a part of the criminal conspiracy. How about this one? Our own FBI destroyed intelligence that China was forging ballots and using fake IDs, etc., to help Biden win the 2020 election. This is something that I've reported on multiple times over the past few years as evidence of 2020 election fraud. Listen to this.
Now, contrast this to what was going on in the same Washington field office, in the same FBI under Chris Wray. In that same time frame is when all that intelligence comes in that China might be intervening in the U.S. election, getting fake driver's licenses and fake ballots so they can help Joe Biden win. And what does the FBI do with that one? It says, circular, we're going to throw it in the garbage can. That is the FBI in 2020. It was just as bad and maybe even worse under Chris Wray than it was in 2016 under Comey. The mindset was not crushed, and it became more emboldened in 20. And then in 21, 22, you see how emboldened it is when they get to Arctic frost. This cancer kept spreading, it kept metastasizing, and more people thought it was okay to settle political scores under the power of government color. And I think that's the cancer we're now fighting, and it's more deep-rooted today than it's ever been. There's been a lot of, progress made in firing and moving people, but there are agencies we don't even talk about, like the National Archives. that were in on this. They were helping this machinery to crush MAGA.
It was all of them. And even when Trump was in power, they were undermining his authority. That is how deep the deep state actually goes. So moving forward, what do we got? Let me go through here. We can save some of this for tomorrow. All right, yeah, we can save all that for tomorrow. There was 3i Atlas stuff and a few other things that I want to talk about, but we'll save that for tomorrow. If it looks like I'm not going to be able to do the show tomorrow night and Tammy can't make it, I will do an earlier show and either record it and put it out at normal time tomorrow, or Tammy might come in and co-host it and just do the show tomorrow. It might just be a dry test run, so just let you know about that for tomorrow. I will try to get out a show actually during the day at some point in time, just so we have something. Don't forget, head on over to Coinbits. And so you can find this at redpills.tv/Bitcoin. And that's Coinbits. redpills.tv/Bitcoin. And if you just go to the website, redpills.tv, there's a button there, and you just click on that button right on the front page. It'll take you over there. And you're going to get way more Bitcoin for your money, way better than buying on any of these other apps. And you know that's me because it's right there. So check them out, guys. If you want to go on and support them, support me and everything that you do. The $5 Bitcoin Club and that $5 subscription over there does help everything that we do here at the Repill Project. Got to remember, there's no fees that are charged for the Bitcoin. There's no spread, so there's no money being made on the transaction in Bitcoin. It's all over there as if you want to take advantage of those low prices. So $5 Bitcoin Club over there, redpills.tv/Bitcoin. All right. Whew, man, what a great show. We have a lot of fun here. I didn't expect that conversation with Dave to go that long, but it was a great conversation because I think it's really important for all of us to understand what's happening economically in this country. And Bitcoin is here to stay, and it's a massive player. So, guys, I will be back with you. I will be back with you tomorrow at some point in time, whether it's very early going live or recorded show or Tammy out here. Other than that, I love you. I hope you guys have a great evening. And I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. See you next time.
There was a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known, with pride in the rules that made us our own. There was a time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns in silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Through the smoke, a voice still calls. We the people will not fall. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil under. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time when truth was clear, when the media served not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people, defending the past. Now corruption wears a crown, lies are fed to tear us down. But Q said watch, and Q said see, the silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a last prize. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, the veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
There was a time, the time is near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time, there was a time. Now is the time. Do it.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!